Welcome to Author's Corner, Discovering Diversity Publishing's podcast, where we get to meet authors where they are and find out who they are. I'm your host, Sheena Blake, CEO of Discovering Diversity Publishing. I'm pumped. Let's just get started. Welcome back to another episode of Author's Corner, DDP's podcast. I am here on the last stop of the tour at Whippersnapper Art Gallery with Deja Beals and Josh from Whippersnapper. Can you tell us please about Whippersnapper before we move on?
Yeah, for sure. We're really happy to have you guys here. So Whippersnapper Art Gallery is an artist-run center that works exclusively with emerging artists, and we try and do a lot of things outside of the gallery that include artist incubator programs. So one of them is called Peers, and we are going to have a call for submissions for coming out at the end of this year. And it's basically an artist incubator program where we come together weekly and discuss ideas and strategies on how to be an artist. That's it.
Well, thank you so much for having us here on the last stop. This has been really, really cool. And now we're going to head on to Deja Beals, the author of you know what? I keep doing this. Authors have to say their own titles. I'm not going to say it. Go ahead, Deja.
Well, thank you so much, Sheena. But my book is called A Word Fitly Spoken. It is a book of poetry that was written over a span of, 10 so years. Only because I didn't know that I actually had a talent for poetry. So it didn't start out that way. It started out with short stories, and then I was challenged in a assignment for school to do a poem. I don't know if that poem was any good, but it made the top of the list, and our school was put on the map because of other submissions as well as myself. So I think I placed like 3rd or 10th or something like that, and it was put into a pile of poetry. So after that day, I was like, yo, I'm writing my own book. It's going to be a book of poetry. It's going to be called A Word Fitly Spoken. It's going to be based on the scripture, Proverbs 25:11. And then it all stopped. And that was the end. I kept writing stuff, and I kept putting it in my closet, and I kept putting it in binders and stuff like that, but I never did anything with it.
Hold on, your process is handwriting?
It was handwritten,
cool.
And then some of them were typed up, and then eventually I was like, I have to type them all together. So I typed them all up, I put them in a binder, and put it in the closet. And then, stuff kept happening, and, I started doing youth group and young adults group, and so they're like, oh, anybody can do this. And at the time I was a mime, so I was like, yeah, I got that. That's great. But then they're like, no, we want something else. I'm like, oh, I can write poetry a little bit. And so it turned out that there was a gentleman who was also a spoken word artist who said, you need to be published. And so that got the wheels turning, and I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. This sounds weird. So I had to find an editor. That, my friends, was a headache in itself because people say they're editors, but they're kind of sort of not editors. And then I finally asked a friend, and she was like, oh, I know 2 people that would be amazing. And I'm like, okay, if you say so. So, I talked to one of them, and they're like, oh, I would love to edit your book. I'm like, oh, okay. Okay.
Come on down.
So we started talking. I showed her the poems, and she's like, oh my gosh, these are amazing. And I'm like, oh, you're just saying that because we know each other. And she's like, no, really, this is great. So we started. Then her schedule filled up, and that was the first woe. So part of this podcast is going to be talking about the woes and the triumphs of self-publishing, because as you know, trying to find a publisher is its own traumatic experience. So self-publishing, you think it would be a little bit easier because you're doing most of the work yourself, but my friends, there's a lot of woes, but there are also a lot of triumphs.
Unless, of course, you find DDP.
That's true. That's true. That shameless plug. It's okay. I do appreciate Discovering Diversity Publishing. So, the first woe was finding an editor that was on top of things as much as you were. Because, I mean, this is your work, right? You want to see it turn out great. You want to see things happen. Schedules fill up, so you're kind of like, oh my gosh, what is happening? So, you know, month goes by, you don't really hear anything. 2 months go by, you don't really hear anything. 3 months go by, you don't really hear anything. So you finally call, you finally message, and you're like, just want to know what's happening. And, you know, perfectly lovely person, no hands against that. But it's just scheduling. Like, things fill up, you want to do different things. So, you know. So she said, yeah, so things are a little busy. I'm trying to get to it. So we scheduled sessions and we sat down and we went through the poem together. She's like, okay, you got to change this syntax. You got to change this. There's this one poem that needed complete reworking. So that one was about love. And it was a long poem because I just had a lot to say because I just kept noticing a lot of different things. And it just riled me. So I was just like, no. People keep saying that love is this and love is that and love is this, and I'm like, no, the love that I know is completely different than what you're talking about. So the poem is actually called Some Call It Love. It is on page 18 of the book. So if you have your hard copy, that's where it is. If you have it by digital copy, I have no idea what page it's on, I'm sorry, I didn't look. But yeah, so scheduling was a woe. And so we finally got it together and we did it. And then some months went by again, and some more months went by again, and some more months went by again. And I started to get a little frustrated because I'm like, but if I'm giving you my work and you're not responding in, you know, a certain amount of time, I start to get frustrated because I'm like, are you taking it seriously? But every time I talk to her, she's like, no, everything is great, everything is amazing.
Was there a financial exchange?
For this one, she said no. I kept offering, and she said no.
Oh.
So I said, okay, we just worked it out. We worked it out so that it was what it was. Again, no knocking her. She did an absolutely fantastic job. According to one of my readers, the book is immaculate. I didn't say it, they said it, so we're gonna go with that. But that was a woe, trying to find scheduling, trying to find everything together. Second woe was once it was finished, I didn't feel confident that I should put it out there. So I had to struggle with, is it ready? I was like, is it ready? Are people gonna read it and be like, oh yes, this is great? Or are they gonna read it and be like, I don't know. So I felt like I needed to do another edit. Woe number 3, going through your own work when you've written it, you've gone over through it with editing, and then you got to do a third one because you don't feel confident that it's ready out there. Believe me, it's a lot. It's a lot. So I started going over everything, like fine-tooth comb. Like I went over every word, every line, every detail. Did this make sense? Did what the edit make sense? Did what the editor say make sense? Did what I feel come clear enough? And so we went through that. That took a couple of months to really feel confident about it. And then I was like, okay, now I feel ready. Then comes woe number 4. Trying to find a publishing company online or that would at least allow you that space where they're not going to change anything or they're not going to ask you for $50,000 on the spot. Slight exaggeration, but usually they take off
there's some, there's not.
Slight exaggeration because I mean they'll ask you for a percentage, which is fair because they have to pay their stuff too. But at the same time, it's like it's your first book. You want to kind of keep what you make so you can pour back into either writing a second book or like doing other things with it. So, woe number 4 was trying to find a space. So I went to an online publishing company. I don't feel like I should say the name just in case other people had greater experiences than I did. But I did not have a great experience with this particular website for self-publishing. I tried to upload my stuff. They kept telling me, no, that's not right. But then they didn't give me the right dimensions to put my stuff in, my files in. So that was really frustrating. So I kept trying to find it, kept trying to do it. And I kept uploading and re-uploading and then uploading and then re-uploading. And the artwork wasn't the right dimension, but they wouldn't give you the right dimension, so you had to keep rewriting, reworking, refixing, removing, remodeling, stretching, shrinking, and so it was just a big nightmare. Woe number 4. So finally we got through that, and I decided that I had enough. So I switched companies or organizations. I went to a different publishing company, and this one had step by step what you're supposed to do, what dimension it's supposed to look like. They said you don't need a this one, you need a that one. I talked to my illustrator, and she said, yep, I got that, I can do that for you. And so woe number 4 was fixed. Then it came to ordering books, woe number 5. So I ordered one book to see what it would look like, and it was sent to me, and I was like, yo, this looks amazing. So I was jumping all over my room, and I ran downstairs and I showed my mom, and she was like, oh, this is so great. And then I ran downstairs and I showed it to my dad, and my dad was like, oh my gosh. Like, he literally froze. He was just like, oh my gosh. Like, he just kept looking through it. He looked on the back, he looked through the middle, and then he turned around and he was like, yay! And so, the next day he was like, Deja, I was thinking about this all day long. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, Deja, like, you're inspiring me to write my own book. And I'm like, do it. I'm so excited for you to do that too. So there it was, woe number 5. It doesn't sound like a woe, but when you really think about it, I started looking through the book. And then I realized that all the page numbers were in the wrong spot. And then I realized that all
This is too real.
I realized like all the margins were mixed up. I found 3 typos and one just word that just shouldn't have been there. And I was like,
How did this happen?
okay. Then I looked on the back and I realized I should have put in like a description of the book on the back, because people looking at that, they would have just been like, oh, okay, that looks great, bye. And not really pick it up. But reading on the back, they'd be like, oh, that's right, you can actually do that. You can, oh yeah, that makes sense, I can read that. Well, number 5, I had to go back into the computer and find all the mistakes and fix them. So, all right, woe number 5 is over. Woe number 6, ordering a new set of books with now the fresh information and fixes and everything in there. All the bugs were out. So I get number 6, and now comes the time to plan some sort of engagement to say, hey guys, I'm an author now. And so I struggled with, do I charge, do I not charge, what do I want to put on the program? I want to have an epic program. I don't want to just poetry. I want like dancing, I want like a little bit of singing, and I want like, just like a nice vibe. And so I started planning, I wrote out all I wanted to do, I contacted the people. And then one of the people said that they can't come, they're going on vacation. And I was like,
Oh.
great. But it wasn't like they came to me and said, hey, Dej, I can't be there, I'm so sorry. It was, I found out through the grapevine that they were going away. And I was like, okay. So then I talked to the other entertainer or artist, the other artist, and they were like, I can fix this. And then we originally talked, and they're like, oh, we're okay with doing this many. And I was like, okay, that's great. And then I came back, and they're like, what do you think about doing this many? And I'm like, okay. And then they're like, well, what do you think about doing video? Like, what if we all did it by video? And I'm like, but the show's live. That wouldn't make sense. So I'm like, we can have the one video and then the rest live. And they're like, well, yeah, okay. And I'm like, but what is this? All right, cool. So you invited everyone, and you're like, everyone come out. And this was woe number 6. I had just my family there. And it was great, but it was also bitter. It was also bittersweet, because you're like, it was bittersweet because you're like, yes, this is amazing. And then you look around and you're like, no, it's not amazing, because no one else was there. I mean, we could have had this party at the house though. So it was one of those, it was really exciting, but it was also really disappointing to not see a couple more people. But again, you do what you gotta do. So I talked more about the woes and not so much the triumphs, but understand, once you get through the woe, that's the triumph. So triumph number 1 was getting it all down on paper and realizing that this could be a book. Well, triumph number 2 was realizing that I can actually self-publish. I don't have to fork out $50,000 to pay a publisher to do all the work for me. I actually can do it by myself. And not to say that, I'm this big bad publisher now, but like it taught me that I'm a lot stronger than I thought I was. It taught me that I'm a lot more self-sufficient than I thought I was. I thought that my book was going to get rejected. I talked to another friend who published a book, but he published through a publishing company. I think this one was a little more independent. So she told me that the book was not enough. Like I needed at least 100 poems, and I only had 30. But I was like, some of them are really long. So I'm like, but why do I need more than what I have? Like I didn't really click with what she was saying. I think she was looking on a higher scale than I was. So that part was a little disappointing too, but you go through the process. So the triumph was understanding that I can do this. It wasn't, a terrible thing. And so triumph number 4 and 5 and 6 all came with going online, finding an online publishing company. I didn't know about DDP then, so I didn't connect with them then, but I did find one that was really great for me. It was Kindle Publishing through Amazon.ca or .com for those who use it in the States. And it turned out great. It gave me step-by-steps, and I learned all the different things that I need to know. So now that when I do my second book, I know all the steps, I know what to do. If somebody asks me, I can say, no, you gotta do this, you gotta do that. And that actually happened. My pastor he wrote a book as well, and he came to me, he's like, Deja, how did you do this? How did you do that? Where did you go on this? And I was able to direct him and show him where to go, and I felt so good. Jamaicans will call it your chest is high. So I felt really good, and I was like, all right, cool, I can do this. So that was what it was. And my woes and my triumphs kind of mixed together. And here we have A Word Fitly Spoken, a book of poetry. My name is on it, and it looks really good. So I'm really excited about that. I've gotten really great reviews from it. I don't think that I've heard anyone come to me and say, Deja, your book stinks, or, you should have written something else. I've never heard that yet. If they thought it, they've never told me, so maybe it's better that they keep it to themselves.
It's actually a silly thing to say to someone who wrote a book. Maybe you should have written about something else.
Yeah,
You should write a book. How's that?
So it turned out really great. So the other thing I want to talk about is using what you have. Because a lot of people think, well, how am I going to write this book? What do I do? My timing is not great. I don't have this. I don't have that. I don't have this. You have everything you need to write a book. Because when I started out this podcast, I told you that I didn't think that I could write poetry because I was a lot better at writing short stories. And so when I wrote the poem, reading it back now, I'm like, yo, this poem was corny. Like, it was really bad. But looking at how things have progressed to now I can actually write something that people are reading and they're like, oh my gosh, this is really good. So it starts out with what you have. And what I had was words. Sounds real simple, but it really is that. It's really simple. It's words. So I've started a online freestyle poetry session. It's called Freestyle Poetry Live, and it's literally that. I get 5 words from whomever wants to participate, or sometimes I get more than one person, so it turns out to be like 20 words. One time I did all 20 words, and that was hectic. But I think sometimes the more words you have, the easier it gets because you can think of different things and different elements. Yeah. So when you have 5 words, it's a little challenging because you have to create outside of those 5 words. So, for example, this happened at an event. So the 5 words were free, gentle, peace, resilient, and serendipity. So you think like, okay, some of these words sound the same, some of them, but no. When you sit down to write, you start to think of the different elements that come with writing. So you think about sentences, you think about paragraphs, you think about world events, you think about how you feel, you think about quotes from movies, songs, books. I love to read, so serendipity for me was like one of those words I've read, so I knew a context of what I wanted to talk about when I wrote the poem. So you start thinking about like all these different things, and then you just put all those elements into your poem. So the poem went like this. Free. We all want to be free from the things that entangle us and enslave us, free. Even when the chains are off, some of us are not free. Freedom for many has come at a cost. Lives lost, even with gentle protests, marches, speeches, freedom has a cost. We all want peace from the tornado of thoughts that swirl and plague our minds, torment our soul. Sleep is a distant star, yet we stay resilient to the cause for freedom. It's serendipitous, we believe freedom can be achieved, but first we must come together in unity. United we stand, divided we fall in the war of peace. Freedom for all. So you see, I just used like world events. I thought about Martin Luther King. I thought about Malcolm X. I thought about how some people are protesting a lot of things downtown nowadays. The protest against Donald Trump. You know, I started thinking about all those different things, and I thought about what is freedom to many people. Freedom to people is to be able to walk down the street and not be in jail. Freedom for some people is I don't have to pay back any student loans, or I'm free from debt. Freedom from other people is I have a mindset to do all the different things that I want to do, and I'm not chained to one style of thing, or you know, I'm not a one-trick pony, or I'm not a jack of all trades. So freedom for many people is many different things. So you gotta understand like what freedom is for you and write what you know. That was the best advice that I've ever gotten from anywhere or anything. Writers, write what you know. If you don't know it, research. If you don't want to research, let it go. Write about what you know. I know about different things because I read a lot, I observe a lot. I'm more introverted than extroverted, so I observe a lot more than other people would. I tend to notice things that are a little ridiculous. And people walk by and they're like, and I'm like, did you see that? And they're like, no. And I'm like, but why? I saw it. And so sometimes like you tend to notice the things that are kind of out there. So take those in. Take in world events. I don't like politics, so I don't watch them a lot. But I pay attention to when people talk about them. I listen to how they feel about certain things. Like, for example, when Obama came into office, I listened to the differences in opinions and thoughts. Some people were like, yay, that's amazing. Other people were like, are you kidding me? This man can't do nothing. He doesn't even, whatever, this is not gonna work. And then it turned out that it was working and he was really good. And, you know, obviously he has his downfalls, but he was really good. So we went with that. So different things make up different stuff. So my first advice to any author, any writer, any artist of any kind, start. There's no such thing as the perfect time. There is no such thing as the perfect time. You start when you start. I started after I got excited about winning that contest in school, and I just went from there. I got excited when I realized that I have what it takes to be a published author. And I used that excitement to sit down and just write. It didn't matter where I was. Sometimes you can wait for the muse to hit you, wait for inspiration to hit you. Other times you gotta go with what you got. And that's how I discovered that I'm really good with freestyle poetry. And freestyle poetry to me is writing a poem on the spot. So how I figured that out was I was sitting in church one day, and pastor was talking about something I don't even remember, and the word arrested came to mind, and it wouldn't leave, and I was like, what does that mean? And then I just started writing down what I thought about arrested. And I thought about how Christianity, a lot of people think that it's this tight-lipped, stiff-necked religion that you can't do this and you give up all your fun. And it really isn't. And so I thought about those things, and then I wrote a poem based on that, which is in the book, by the way. I don't remember what page, so you're gonna have to look for yourself. You
Just read them all.
I mean, you could. That's a definite option. So I sat down, and I was already sitting in church, and I wrote out this poem in church. And so it was testimony service in the evening, and they asked for testimony, and I'm like, I don't really have one, but I want to share this poem. Like, it sounds really good. So, you know, well, to me anyways. So I went to the front, I said my poem, and one of the guys that was there, he came up to me afterwards. He's like, Deja, how long did it take you to write that poem? And I was like, 10 minutes. And he's like, Deja, I hate you. Like, it took me literally a month to write this poem, and I've still not finished it. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I mean, I can give you some pointers. And he's like, no, I'm gonna finish it. I'm gonna work it out. But like, how did you do that? Like, how did you come to it? And I was like, I thought and I wrote, and it was done. And he's like, oh my gosh, like, that's crazy. So now, when I do freestyle poetry, that's freestyle poetry on Facebook Live. I haven't tried YouTube Live yet, but I might try it one day. So I'm really soon. Facebook Live is actually really working for me, so I'm gonna stick with that. And they save your videos for you, so that's working, and I can share them, and I can all that stuff. So that's why it's working for me really well right now. So that's how I discovered that I can use what I have. So I thought about what I was good at. I'm good at thinking on the spot. I'm good at making things up. I have a great imagination, and I use those elements of things that I learned from books, things that I've seen in movies and TV, and what I've seen from other people. And what you'll get from this book as well is you'll get a lot of different experiences. Not all of them are mine. Some people are like, oh, I saw you in your book. And I'm like, you saw some of me in my book, but you saw a lot of things that I've seen from other people. For example, the poem In the Basement of My Soul, that was written based on someone else. It was someone else's experience. And I saw how sad this person was. I saw how so many things had happened in this person's life that it was as if life was draining from them and they didn't know how to get back. And so that poem was based off of that person's experience. And I mentioned before, Some Call It Love. That was based on a variety of things. I'm watching TV and I'm seeing people say love sucks and love is blind and love is lousy and bring out the violins and the sad music. And I'm like, I'm sorry guys, I have a totally different experience than you guys. Yes, I'm still single, but I have a different experience of love because I have my parents, I have friends, I have my faith. And those experiences of love is totally different from what I was seeing on TV. And I'm like, yes, you have your relationships, and yes, things go south and things go up and down, and you know, from what I've heard. But some of these people were like, oh, love sucks, and I'm never falling in love, and I'm never gonna get a man, and I'm never gonna get a woman. And so that was the poem. It was based off of those things. And I'm like, love is not a candy that you're delivered when you go on a date. Love is something so much more. And you think about love as like this flowery bush-like thing and it's all pretty. Love is really not that. Love is a lot more stable. It doesn't keep records of past wrongs. It doesn't hold things against you. It's kind, it's beautiful. It's not selfish. If you find somebody that's selfish and they say they love you, they actually don't. You're gonna need to think about that and see if you actually really want that person in your life, because that's not what love is about. Love is not selfish. Love is selfless. Love is something that is a lot more stable than what we've called it. So that's the poem. It wasn't about me at all. So you'll get a lot of different things when you sit down to write. You can use anything. You can use everything. So that's my advice to any new author. Write what you know and write about what you feel and what you've experienced. It could be through something else or through experience that you've had or through experience other people had. And that's how a lot of this book was written, and that's how my other books are being written. My other books, plural, are being written through understanding that I'm using what I have. And knowing that there's never going to be a perfect time, you start when you start.
It's just like having a baby.
For those who have had babies, yes, it is. You start when you start and you finish when you finish. But keep at it. Don't give up. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to want to take your whole computer and throw it out the window. You're going to want to throw your book into a fire. But realize that your work is the best part of you. It's the essence of you. It is better than you think it is. It is more amazing than you believe it is. Somebody doesn't have to come and tell you that, but you have to see it for yourself first. And then as other people read it and they write their comments, then you can say, yes, you can join that with your beliefs of yourself, and you'll have a beautiful work of art, and it's all amazing, and it's all beautiful, and art is an expression of who you are. Yeah, and it's great. It's really great.
Is that all?
I think so. I don't think I have anything more to talk about.
So guys, what's funny about this is that like those of you who have listened to the rest of the podcast before today, there's been a story that I've told in every podcast. And so the story goes like this. In my 4th or 5th year of university, yep, I took a long time.
I did 5 years too, though.
Yeah.
Don't worry.
I really enjoyed myself. I wasn't trying to go anywhere.
I took my time. So, yeah.
So we had a professor come into the room, and he says to us, okay, you know, for your final assignment, you're going to write an essay. And you're going to write an essay on whatever you'd like, make it as long as you need it to be to prove your point, and hand it in when it's done.
Ugh, I don't like when they do that sometimes.
So interesting you say that. So I was like, okay. And then one of my classmates was like, oh, great, professor, but what do we write about? And he's like, well, whatever you want. And then she's like, oh, okay. And then someone else says, great, but like, how long does it really need to be? And he was like, as long as it needs to be for you to prove your point. And then one more person puts up their hand and asks one more question. And he took the chair and he whipped it across the room. And he screamed, free your minds. Now, what's interesting is that we purposely set up 10-10-10 to be in a very similar fashion. And what's also very interesting is that Deja is actually the one author who never came to me like, so what do I need to talk about in my podcast? She was the only one who was just like, okay, I'm going to do this or this, which was really interesting. So you just took a half an hour telling us about things, so I didn't have to preface with this story, which is really interesting. Mm-hmm. So those of you who are thinking of coming on Author's Corner, and now that you've actually heard me say this story 10 times, please note that you will be hosting your own podcast, and it's your soapbox. So
do it.
Yeah.
You will feel amazing afterwards. You're petrified, of course. Like I always try to preface with, if you hear something loudly knocking, don't worry about it. It's just my knees. It's all good. Sweat in weird places, but really and truly, you will feel amazing afterwards because you will have had a chance to speak what's on your heart, speak what's on your mind. You'll stumble, of course. I stutter sometimes when I'm nervous. Actually, a lot of times when I'm nervous.
I've never heard you stutter before.
I did it at least 3 times so far.
Today?
Just now.
Oh.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you speak based on what's in your heart. You speak on what's on your mind, and you get it out. Because some people, they hold things in and they think, oh, I shouldn't say that. Oh, I shouldn't say that. No, say it.
Well, this is what Author's Corner is all about, to really have an opportunity to go on your soapbox and talk about what's interesting to you and what's really been on your mind. So before we close or do anything else, is there anything else on your mind, Miss Deja Beals, author of A Word Fitly Spoken?
Why, yes. I think I want to talk about how great you people are. And I say you people as if I'm not one of these people. I'm sorry. That's disrespectful. Let me start again. I would like to talk about how great we are. You don't have to be an artist to be great. You can be a great leader, you can be a great teacher, you can be a great garbage man, you can be a great custodian. I call every custodian that I meet, because I work in education, I call every custodian that I meet the boss, the chief, because if you know anything about schools, the principal is not the boss, the custodian is. Anything you need, anything that's desired, the custodian knows. I've gone to principals and I'll be like, is it okay to use the space? And they've told me to go to the custodian because they don't know. So I'm telling you, the custodian is the boss of the school. Don't think otherwise because they actually don't know. The principal is the boss of paperwork. That's it. Don't worry about that. So anyways, I just want to talk about how great we are. Some people don't realize that there is greatness that is in you, and they think that, okay, so I'm doing this thing, it doesn't sound really good. No, you are great. You are better than good, you are better than fantastic, you are great. And the reason why you're great is because you're you, and because I believe that God has given us all something to do, something to be, and something to talk about. And that's what makes us great. So, you can find this poem in A Word Fitly Spoken, written by Deja Beals. That's me. And it's called Greatness Lives in Me. I'm not going to tell you what page it's on because you got to go find it for yourself. So, greatness lives in me. How can I face the world when I can't keep my gaze in the mirror? How can I believe in the impossible when I don't yet believe in myself? How can I reach, attain, or achieve my goals and dreams when I don't yet believe in me? How can I finish this race when I have not yet moved my feet? Standing at this crossroads amid shattered hopes and aspirations, hesitant to let go of pride, doubts, and fears, bound by the chains of lies, held in place by wounds and scars of situations and circumstances gone by. Fear, it clamps tight to my heart like a vice grip. I want to let go. I want to be released, free to go forward, fulfilling my destiny. But it's all a blur. My tears are blinding me, standing here in my disability. A soft voice invades my soul, urging me forward, reminding me of promises long forgotten. I pondered that it's not by my might, nor by my power, but by his spirit. I recalled I had to trust, lean, depend on him, commit my ways to him. He will grant me the desires of my heart. I remembered that he is the author and finisher of my life story. I'm turning the page, a new chapter, the present becoming history, wiping my tears. I can feel the chains losing strength, power surges from deep within. The wounds, fears, doubts, and pain are all fading. Confidence now returning, I step forward and watch as the chains slide down my shoulders. I step again. The chains fall to the ground. Onward I go, forsaking the things that I'm leaving behind. Boldly I run towards the reawakened dreams of destiny. The power within propels me. I realize that I'm no longer running. I'm gliding, held by a set of wings, while I overcome obstacles, move mountains, and pass through valleys. Smiling, I now can see what he meant when he said, "Greatness lives in me."
Woo! I can't snap with that hand, so I'll snap with this one.
So just to tell you guys, there's a lot of things that are within you that you can pull out. Get around some people that are pursuing their passion. Get around some people that are artistic like yourself. Get around some people that know more than you. Learn, glean, watch TV or shows or movies that have that inspirational content. A good one is Hidden Figures. I don't know if you guys have heard about it or seen it, but Hidden Figures is an amazing story of using what's within you for the greatness that is to come. And it just started a whole era of fabulousness. And get around some people that you can talk to and discuss your artistry, your work with, because that part's important too. I was around people who had that artistry and they were able to influence me and guide me, and there was a lot they couldn't tell me, so I had to figure it out by myself, but there was a lot that they could tell me and I learned from them, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was absolutely amazing. So understand that there is greatness in you. You are not by yourself. There are people rooting for you. If you need a cheerleader, find me on Facebook. Let me know what event you're at. I'll come and I'll cheer for you. Because making a lot of noise is also a gift of mine. So take that with you, and we will see each other soon.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Deja Beals on Author's Corner with DDP, and we are currently in Whippersnapper Art Gallery, and the walls are blank, which is amazing. We're sitting in a little white room. Thank goodness there's giant windows, otherwise we might feel a little crazy. It's an amazing space. We've had the opportunity to see a lot of people walking by. Join us next time.
Yes.
Deja, I want to thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
This has been the 10th day, the 10th stop in our 10-10-10 Toronto Authors Tour. 10 authors, 10 locations, 10 days in July.
It was great.
It was pretty cool.
It was great.
So we have been to Rasta Pasta, La Chilaca Tiqueria. What was stop 3? There's been... Sorry, guys. clearly I've seen too many. We were at Onyx Barbers, we were at Urban Curls, we were at the Gladstone Hotel, we were at Andre Alexander's Hip Hop Art Gallery, we were at Street Shack, and now we're here. I believe I said all 10. I'm really hoping I have, because my brain has just been fried. But guys, we've seen amazing things, and I want to thank everyone who's joined the tour, every author, every location, and really like just shout outs to all greatness in this universe. It's been really amazing. Deja, thank you for closing us off with your brilliance and your majesty.
Thank you.
Where can the folks find you on Facebook, on Instagram? Where can they find your book?
You can find me on Facebook at Deja Beals. You can find me on Instagram, also by the same name.
Could you spell Deja for us?
Deja is D-E-J-A. That is D-E-J-A. Beals, B-E-A-L-S. On Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. If you would like a hard copy of the book, you can find me on Facebook and send me a message, and I will get it out to you ASAP. If you would like your own way of doing it, you can go to amazon.ca and order your copy that way and get it in the mail, because I love getting mail. If you want to, you can also check out my website, which is also dejabeals.ca, and order it through there. If you would like a soft copy, an ebook copy, again, it's on amazon.ca via Kindle. So if you have a Kindle app, you can go to Kindle and you can find it. The book is called A Word Fitly Spoken. Fitly, F-I-T-L-Y, because some people think I say filthy. It's not filthy. It's
Good thing we cleared that up.
right. It's an odd word, but it's definitely there. Yeah, you can find it on Kindle. And for any other information about me or anything else, check me out. You can check me out on YouTube, Deja Beals as well, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Amazing.
Oh.
Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Whippersnapper. And guys, we will see you next time. Peace and blessings. Thank you so much for listening. This has been Author's Corner, DDP's podcast. Make sure you subscribe and you share and you tell a friend, like up close and personal, tell a friend. Make sure you let all of your author friends know, and if you happen to be an author, make sure you reach out. We'd love to hear from you. This is your soapbox. Okay, we'll catch you next time. Peace and blessings.
Hey guys, I just wanted to introduce my dad, who wanted to come and say a few words about A Word Fitly Spoken, and of course his daughter. So, here it is, my daddy.
Well, A Word Fitly Spoken, very well done, inspirational, and it's amazing that a young lady could, at such and such age, under 50 years old, could come up with such wisdom and insight in life itself. And I know that in the olden times, the olden days, most of the wisdom came from somebody who sat under the tutelage of. But this young lady, to expound this in a book, just amazing, just amazing. And as a parent, you're saying to yourself, should I take credit for this?
You should. I would.
Should I take credit for this? Because every parent has their gifts. And I know I used to do a lot of writing in the past, but just to see how she has taken that and evolved with it, and the wisdom, and I've told her many times, and I still tell her, that she has wisdom beyond her years. And by putting all this in a book, I think she has shown, and I'm pretty sure that the world will see that this young lady has a lot of wisdom, and being able to not only to expound it, but to articulate it, to package it in a book. So I figured that this is probably just a starting ground for her. And when you learn how to not only fit words together, but be able to speak those words that are fitted together in a book. And I've handed this book to many folks that have paid for the book, and they have said the same thing. Everybody, this is a very good book, and they've actually passed it on to other folks. So that only tells you, and these folks are retired, some of them. So that only tells you that the amount of inspiration that is in the book can speak to all ages. So when you get somebody at this age that is able to define where her audience is, not really, actually I should correct that word, not really defining, but being able to share amongst the different audiences. Because this is good for the up and coming, this is good for the middle, this is good for those that are ending. Anybody can get inspiration from this book. It doesn't matter what walk of life you are in, it doesn't matter what religion you're in. This book is not really so-called based on religion, although we do know that she comes from a very religious background. But anybody that is not religious can definitely enjoy this book. And I would encourage anybody, young or old, middle, up and coming, to take advantage of what's written in this book and allow this book to speak to them, because it's done with, a very deep thought, and obviously the homework has been done, the studying has been done. And I know that a lot of quotes she's gotten from folks that she's listened to, some of the books that she's read, so she has been able to make it her own. A lot of times we can say, oh, so-and-so, you copy so-and-so, and you sound like so-and-so, but she's made it her own. She's packaged it with different folks in her life, and she's packaged it her own, and she's made it her own. And we can say that it's her own. So that's really, I think I'm more encouraged that she's made it on her, she's made this her own, and she's put her own style in there. There's you can kind of feel the spoken word, and then you can also feel the poetry in there. And so being able to put those things together, that takes a lot of skill, a lot of skill, a lot of talent, and just being able to do that, I think is just phenomenal. So I am very proud of this young lady that I call my daughter. And to me, she's daddy's girl.
Always.
Right? So it doesn't matter how old she gets, whether she's married or unmarried, she's still daddy's girl. So, and I know daddy's girl is going to use this as a foundation. And in anything in life, you have to have a foundation. So she's had a foundation, and now she's building on that foundation. And I would encourage her to not stop. Just continue to study and understand and get more involved in things in life, and you'll see that the different areas in her life will start to unfold, as this book has definitely shown that she has definitely spoken in areas of her life. And I don't know, I would suggest this book to anybody that's even if you're going through some struggles. You might be a student and you might not know where things are in life, but this here book can help you. This here book is an inspirational book. Those that are involved in poetry, that like poetry, forget about poetry. Think of this book as an inspiration that's written in poetry. And I think that if you think along those lines and you gravitate to this wonderful spoken word, I think it can go a long ways for you, and as well as anybody you pass the book on to. So I'm very proud. Yes.
So I would like to just add that he didn't say any of those things because he's biased towards me. I would like to say that those are actual sincere words. He has gotten feedback from other people as well, as have I. So just so you guys know, it's not just because he's my dad, but it's because he's my dad.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you, Dad, and Mom is also here. Did you want to say anything about your baby and her work? That's okay. I understand. We know that.
You're already taking up all the time. So next time.
Okay. We know that parents' love is like probably the most important thing that can happen in any person's life. So I'm really glad. I'm really glad that you have two parents who are really, really supportive of your work. And I want to ask you a quick question. For the listeners that are listening who may not have the same level of support, what wisdom do you think you could offer them in terms of like getting going on something like this?
I would seek out people around me that has even the slightest modicum of respect for you. So it could be a professor, it could be a teacher. As long as you feel safe talking to them, you feel safe sharing with them, you feel safe opening up to them, I would use them as a way to get some inspiration or get some advice. Again, not everybody has the same
support system
that I have, but at the same time, there are people who do support you. So sometimes it's just you talking to different people, maybe not sharing your whole dream, your whole vision, but at least getting an idea of who's for you, who's really not for you, and sticking with the people who are for you. Sometimes it's as simple as watching YouTube videos. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos of different poets, different spoken word artists, to get an insight on how they do it, what their poem sounds like, looks like, get feedback on, or at least get some insight on how they put together the poem, how they practice.
Did you do that with your parents?
Did I tell them about it?
Yeah, well, did you have feedback from them before? Like, I remember the story of when you got the book in the mail and you showed it to mom and dad and they were really, really excited, but did you show them any work before?
I did not, because I wanted to surprise them. I wanted it to be, wait a minute, you've been doing this all this time? What
secretly in your room?
Yes, I wanted it to be a surprise to them because I wanted to show them that I can do it. There's things that they notice about me. Like, my parents know everything about me. There's nothing I can tell them that surprises them. But there's some things that they didn't know was developing. So that was my way of saying, hey guys, this is what you've been producing. This is what you've been pouring into. So it was just a nice way to surprise them and say, hey guys, this is what I've been doing, So that's my advice for other people as well. Get around some people that you can talk to, you can share those ideas with, and they give you honest feedback. If it stinks, it stinks. That just means you gotta work it out a different way so that it's more of you and it's more polished and it's more put together. For some people that could be a professor, other people it can be a pastor, a neighbor, classmate, anybody that you feel comfortable talking to, opening up to. And the main thing is you need to be able to open up to them, not just, oh yeah, I'm thinking about maybe possibly, no, this is what I'm afraid of, this is what.
So are you recommending that they openly say to the person, hey, I'd love your feedback on this. I'm writing a book.
Absolutely.
Here's the first 5 pages.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, guys, you heard it here first. Dad?
I have a tendency to talk a little bit too much, but it has nothing to do with talking too much. It has everything to do with the excitement that that one of yours is doing something that they love doing. And I've always taught all of my children is to find something that you love to do and learn how to do it better than anybody else. And that's not to say that there's not anybody out there that's better, but you have to learn how to do it better than anybody else. And I think that this young lady has done that. And so that makes me very proud. I know my wife is very proud of her as well. So to me, it's not really rambling on. To me, it's just sharing the feeling and the joy and the excitement, just to see that she's doing something that she loves to do. And I think that's the most important thing, because anybody can, write, and anybody could put something together and call it a book, but not everybody can make it effective. And not everybody can, be articulate in what they do. And I think that she's showing us that she has a lot of passion in what she does. And passion for me means that it doesn't matter what anybody else says, it's what you say. And so she's saying it, and she's not saying it in words, but she's saying it in action. And I think that's the most important thing. So, go girl.
Go, girl.
Yeah.
Thank you.